My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today's topic is going to be talking about the 8 things that make people want to move away from Alaska. So these are not indications that somebody failed because they moved away because of one of these reasons. These are just things that people decide they want to move away from after being here and kind of experiencing it a little bit themselves. So it's not a sign of failure in any way. It's just seeing what works for you and what's exactly going to help you build that legacy that we were talking about before. And if these things are kind of a detriment, then that's just something you have to decide if this is the life that you want to live. There's obviously lots of pros to living here. This video is not on that topic. These are just the reasons people decide to move. If you want to check out some more of the pros, certainly check out a lot of other videos on this channel because there are a lot, and you can go and get them from there. But before we get started, do make sure you give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already to receive more information like this. And let's go and jump into today's video talking about the 8 things that make people want to move away from Alaska. Now, the first thing that makes people want to move away from Alaska is the darkness. So it is not nearly as dark in South Central Alaska as it's going to be in places like Fairbanks or even further than that. I know there's a lot of channels and a lot of TV shows that portray Alaska as being this place where you have zero sunlight at all during the wintertime. Not the case in most of it. Those are the extremes, and that is clickbait. But yes, it does get dark for a long period of time here in South Central Alaska, where I think you'll get maybe 5 hours or so of sunlight. So you still get something, but if you're liable, if you're the type of person who is going to get seasonal depression from having the lack of sunlight, then that's something you need to take into consideration. And it's one of the big reasons a lot of folks do decide to leave, is just the darkness and kind of the effect that can have on your mental well-being. I'm actually going to be bringing on a clinical psychologist to talk more about the seasonal depression aspect of it, to kind of help you guys decide if that's going to be a big issue that you need to think about right now, and the things you can do to really minimize it, because it's not like you just get it and there's nothing you can do about it. There are things you can do that are going to set you up for success, even if you are prone to getting it. So that's number 1, darkness. The second thing, and I know this is going to sound really weird and, light of what I just said, but the sunlight during the summertime can be a lot for some people. And kind of what I mentioned before about, kind of that depression hitting in there, you can kind of get the same thing if you really struggle to sleep during the summertime. Like, I know me personally, I do struggle to sleep during the summertime because it is sunlight out there all the time. And even if I have to black out blinds, my brain is still thinking it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it's still bright out. So there are, like I said, things you can do to really make sure that you can get some more sleep during the summertime. So definitely do look up some of those solutions. I should probably do a video just talking about what you can do to sleep during the summertime. But yes, that's another reason that a lot of folks do decide to leave, is it's very difficult to sleep during the summertime. The third thing that makes people want to leave from Alaska are the high property taxes. So this is something that really, really aggravates me. And that's because that our state and kind of the local governances really don't have any other way but property taxes to raise taxes for itself, which is just insane. Here in Anchorage, they don't have a sales tax. We don't have an income tax. The burden is on the property owners. And if you live here in the area, kind of balances out because, like I said, you don't have sales tax or the other taxes. But in my mind, the taxes are very, very unfairly put on the shoulders of property owners. And I've got people moving up from California that are telling me our property taxes are high, and that should be concerning, and that should be a big indictment on our local governments, that we need to come up with a more fair tax system. So that's number 3. Number 4 is that we have earthquakes up here, and this should not come as a surprise to anybody. We are on the Ring of Fire after all, and we're going to get a number of earthquakes. Usually they're not going to be huge earthquakes that you're going to write home about. Usually, if you feel anything, it'll be like a quick little jolt, and that'll be the end of it, if you even feel that. We get lots of little tremors here and there, but usually it's going to be stuff you're just not going to feel. Now, we do get larger earthquakes like what we had back in 2018, and that was obviously pretty concerning, and that was not a fun earthquake to be in because it lasted up to about 40, I think it was 48 or 50 seconds of, just the ground moving a lot, and it was not very fun, to say the least. That being said, though, all the properties, well, most of the properties here did just fine because the buildings are designed to go with the ground and to actually sustain itself even if you have an earthquake going on. So even though we do get earthquakes a lot, usually it's just not as big of a deal. But for some people, earthquakes cause a lot of anxiety. And if you've been in a couple of big ones, then there's people who actually do get some PTSD from it. That sounds dramatic, but until you have been in an earthquake where literally the whole building's going back and forth, lights are going out, you got no room to talk. So yes, earthquakes is definitely one of them. For most people, it's not really that big of a deal. You're gonna have natural disasters anywhere. If you're over on the East Coast, you'll probably have hurricanes, you got tornadoes in other places. You've got blizzards, you've got all sorts of flooding, you've got all sorts of natural disasters across the country. This is kind of just deciding which natural disaster you're going to be most comfortable with. Luckily here, we're set up for our natural disaster. Usually it's not that big of a deal. Let's take a break here real quick. So number one, just wanted to remind you, I do have a relocation guide for those of you considering moving to Alaska. And if that's something that would benefit you, definitely do feel free to reach out to me on my website. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. Just make sure you put relocation guide in the comment section so I know what in the world you're asking for and how I can help you. And if you want me to answer any questions for you directly, do make sure you put your phone number in there as well. I try to keep up with email, but I've got over 15,000 unanswered emails just because I'm a realtor and I have tons of email coming in. So give yourself the best chance for success and put your phone number in there. Also, do make sure you listen to the podcast Alaskan Journey. Link for that is going to be down below, where I interview people who actually live here right now. And we can go into a lot more details about what it's like living up here than, kind of these short videos that I have on YouTube. So make sure you check that out. It's a wealth of information, and let's go and jump in to today's video and finish it up. The fifth reason that people decide to move away from Alaska is it is a higher cost of living than what you're going to find in the rest of the US. Now, I've really kind of broken this down in other videos and talked about, how does Alaska compare to these other, high expense exotic locations, and really it's kind of at the low end of what you would look at for places like Hawaii or California or over in the Northeast. It's really going to be on the low end of that, but still it is a higher cost of living, and that's just something you have to accept going into it, that it's going to be a little bit more expensive up here than what you're going to find in most other places in the US. Number 6 is that it can be a little difficult finding positions up here if you are in a very specialized professional career. Unless you can work remotely, Alaska just doesn't have that huge hub of people that are going to attract all these really high expertise, high paying jobs. So if you have a very niche position and you can't work remotely, Alaska is usually just not going to be a thing that's going to attract you. Now, if you are somebody who's working in the medical field or an engineer or something like that, you're probably never going to be looking for work. But if you're looking at more like the financial sector or a lot of other, highly specialized positions, it's just probably not going to be something that's going to give you a whole lot of opportunity. But if you can work remotely, which a lot of people can now after COVID, then you're going to have some good chances there. Number 7, I've got to put that on here just because no video about the cons of living in Alaska would be complete without it. The mosquitoes. I know it's cheek for everyone to complain about it. I have not really seen a lot of mosquitoes. Honestly, a couple outings here and there, yeah, there were some of them. Again, maybe I'm just not going to the right places, but yeah, sure, why not? Let's just throw it in there. Mosquitoes. And number 8, last but not least, is the cold. If you are not somebody who enjoys the cold, then Alaska is probably just not going to be a good fit for you long term. Might be a great place to visit. It might not be a great place for you to live though. So just something for you to consider. I mean, I personally have kind of bad circulation, and so my hands and feet get cold really quickly. And for that reason, I mean, I've got things I can do to kind of mitigate that a little bit. I've got a garage where I can just go park my car and it's heated. And so I don't have to have the experience of running outside, turning on in the morning, shivering for about 5 minutes, waiting for it to get going. So that's really nice. And there are other things you can do too if you're not really somebody who loves the cold. So yeah, there are definitely options there. So that has been your 8 things that make people want to move from Alaska. There are obviously ways you can kind of minimize each one of these. So if you are still interested in moving up here, do feel free to reach out to me. Again, link for that is going to be down below for my website, or feel free to connect with me on Facebook or slide into my DMs on Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.